The moment I stepped into Uncle Rick's beach house, my heart sank, swallowed by a silence so thick it felt like a living thing watching me. I'd driven 2 hours from Pennsylvania to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, through roads that twisted like veins under a sky bleeding purple. It was spring a few months ago, and I was lost in the fog of life after college. No job yet. Mine wouldn't start until June. No responsibilities. Just days stretching endlessly, mocking my need to matter. I'd finished school early, thinking it would free me, but freedom was a weight crushing me with its emptiness. Every morning, I woke in my childhood bedroom, staring at the same peeling wallpaper, feeling like a ghost in my own life. I needed purpose, something to prove I wasn't fading away. Mom's call was a lifeline. Her voice, soft but edged with urgency, asked me to check Rick's beach house. Make sure the pipes weren't leaking, the windows weren't cracked, save him the cost of a handyman. I said yes before she finished, desperate for a task to fill the void. Rick's house wasn't just any house. It was a beast, a 3-story giant that swallowed my entire extended family, 25 of us, every summer. Those weeks were chaos card games sprawled across tables, beer cans, cluttering counters, laughter and shouting, weaving a messy living tapestry. My cousins would cheat at poker. My aunts would argue over recipes, and Uncle Rick would pour another round, his booming laugh shaking the walls. That was the house. I knew a place so alive, it pulsed. But pulling into the driveway at dusk, the house looked wrong. Dead. Its weathered wooden walls sagged under the weight of absence. Windows dark as closed eyes. The air carried salt and something sharper, like rust or regret. Tall beach grass swayed in the quiet neighborhood, their whispers louder than the ocean's distant roar. The house wasn't on the shoreline, but close enough to feel its pull, a cold, restless presence. I grabbed my bag, sneakers grinding gravel, and unlocked the front door. The silence hit me like a fist stealing my breath. No clinking glasses, no drunken debates, just the fridge's faint hum and the echo of my own footsteps too loud in the hollow space. I dropped my keys on the counter, the sound jarring, and started Rick's checklist. Faucets ran clear, their steady drip, a mockery of the stillness. Breakers held firm in the basement, their hum a faint pulse in the dark. I checked windows, their frames cold under my fingers, and doors, their locks stiff but secure. The back deck where we'd grilled burgers last summer stood empty, its boards warped by salt air. Everything was fine, but the house felt alive in a way that chilled me. Its shadows seemed to shift when I turned away, its silence a held breath waiting. I remembered a story Mom told me years ago about Rick buying this place cheap. The previous owner swore it was haunted doors opening at night, shadows moving in empty rooms. Mom laughed it off, said it was just a story. But standing there alone, I wasn't laughing. A cold draft brushed my neck as I texted Mom, saying all was well. I froze, thumbs hovering over the screen, eyes darting to the corners. Every window was shut, every door locked. Where had it come from? Nothing. Just my nerves, frayed by the quiet. I made a sandwich, stale bread, a smear of mustard, and sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling my phone. The screen's glow felt like a shield, but it couldn't block the house's weight. The floorboards groaned under invisible steps. The air tasted of dust and salt, heavy with something I couldn't name. I told myself it was just the contrast. The house was loud in summer, so of course it felt wrong now. But my pulse quickened, a drum beat I couldn't ignore. This wasn't emptiness. It was anticipation. Something was watching, waiting for the sun to vanish. I pushed the thought down, focusing on the plan. Finish the checklist. Eat leave tomorrow. But the house had its own agenda. That prickle on my skin, that sense of being seen in a place too big, too quiet. It burrowed deep as I climbed the stairs, my shadow trailing like a ghost. I didn't know I was walking into the last moments of calm before terror took over. Midnight loomed, and I stood in the master bedroom, its massive bed daring me to claim a comfort I hadn't earned. I'd texted Mom. I'd stay over. Driving back in the dark wasn't an option. I hated night drives, the way headlights bled into the void, the road stretching into a black unknown. Mom's reply was quick, thank Rick for letting me crash. I did fingers clumsy on the phone, stomach knotting, with an unease I couldn't shake. The silence was louder now, a living presence that clung to the walls, daring me to disturb it. During family summers, I'd been shoved into a cramped third-floor room, its mattress lumpy, its window stuck half open, letting in the damp ocean air. The older relatives got the good room's sprawling suites with soft beds and private bathrooms. I never complained. It was just how things worked. But tonight, with the house to myself, I felt reckless, almost defiant. Why not? The master bedroom was a sanctuary, a world apart from my usual closet-sized space. Its marble bathroom gleamed under soft light. The walk-in closet stretched into shadows deep enough to get lost in, and the bed piled high with crisp white sheets promised a kind of rest I hadn't known in months. I imagined sinking into it, the world fading, the silence softening into something safe. I tossed my bag on a velvet chair, ate a makeshift dinner of crackers and leftover cheese, and scrolled through my phone. The screen's glow, a flimsy defense against the dark. The house groaned its wooden frame, settling like an old man's bones. The ocean's rhythm pulsed through the walls, a distant roar that should have soothed, but didn't. The air carried a metallic tang, like fear, left to fester. I brushed it off, washed my face in the bathroom's cold light, and slid into bed around midnight. The sheets were cool against my skin, the mattress cradling me like a lover. Exhaustion pulled me under, fast the world blurring into darkness. Pause. Something ripped me awake. My eyes snapped open, heart slamming against my ribs, though I couldn't say why. The room was pitch black, save for a sliver of moonlight slicing through the curtains, sharp as a blade. I lay frozen, breath, shallow ears, straining for a clue. Had I dreamed it? No. A faint rustle. A shift came from the closet across the room. As a kid, I'd hidden in my closet during hide and seek, the darkness so thick it felt like it could swallow me. I'd hated closets ever since their hidden corners, always promising something sinister. I tilted my head the closet door, a black smudge in the gloom. My pulse roared, drowning out the ocean's hum. Stay still. Don't breathe. Just listen. I could have gotten up, flicked on the light, checked it out. But my body refused, locked in a paralysis, born of pure animal fear. I didn't want to know what was in there. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing myself back to sleep, telling myself it was nothing, a coat slipping, a mouse skittering. It's nothing. It's nothing. Go back to sleep. I was slipping under the edges of sleep, pulling me down, when it happened again. A heavy, deliberate sound, like a footstep, cloaked in caution from inside the closet. My eyes flew open, heart lurching. Whatever was there, it wasn't leaving. The closet door was a black abyss, and something inside was awake, alive, watching me. That second sound shattered any hope I'd imagined the first. My body went rigid, every muscle screaming to run, but I couldn't move. Terror chained me to the bed, stretching seconds into eternity. I squinted eyes, barely open, praying it was a trick of the dark. But I knew better. The sound was intentional, heavy, not some random slip. The air grew thick, pressing against my chest, making each breath a struggle. The moonlight turned cold, sharper, carving jagged shadows that danced on the walls. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was expectant, holding its breath with me. Run. hide, scream, do nothing. Stay still. Stay still. I couldn't move, not because of some supernatural force, but because I chose not to. The truth was worse than any ghost story. I was afraid of what I'd find if I looked. My mind flashed to every horror tale I'd heard, every warning about being alone in a big house. Rick once told me about a break-in years before I was born. Nothing was stolen, but the intruder left a single shoe in the middle of the living room, like a taunt. He'd laughed it off, but the story stuck with me, festering, and now it was alive, breathing in this moment. The closet door moved a slow, deliberate motion that sliced through the silence like a knife. My breath caught my eyes, slitted just enough to see. A shape emerged, a human figure, its edges blurred but unmistakable. It stepped into the room silent and stood beside my bed. Don't move. Don't scream. Pretend you're asleep. I was a statue, lungs burning, heart, a drum beat in my throat. It didn't stir, didn't speak, just watched me. 20 seconds passed, each one impossibly long, its presence a weight crushing my chest. I couldn't see its face, but I felt its gaze, cold and unyielding, boring into me. Then, as silently as it came, it turned and walked out. I heard the footsteps, soft, deliberate, crossing the hardwood floor. They didn't go downstairs as I'd prayed. They climbed each step, a heavy thud, moving up the stairs to the third floor. My stomach twisted into knots. The third floor, my usual room, the one I'd avoided tonight, had no exit, no fire escape, no back staircase. Whoever this was, they were trapped up there. Or I was trapped down here with them. The house seemed to pulse its walls, closing in the air, growing heavier with every step I heard. My mind screamed to act, but fear held me hostage. What if he was armed? What if he wasn't alone? I couldn't fight a grown man, couldn't outrun him in this maze of a house. Do something. Do nothing. Call for help. Stay silent. Save yourself. You're already dead. The thoughts looped a frantic spiral until I broke free, my hand trembling as I reached for my phone under the pillow. I dialed 911, my voice a whisper, barely audible, telling the dispatcher someone was in the house. I slipped out of bed, my bare feet cold on the hardwood, and moved to the door. My fingers fumbled with the lock, turning it as quietly as I could. That lock, that thin barrier, was all that stood between me and whatever was upstairs. I backed away, crouching by the bed phone, clutched to my chest, listening for any sound. The house was silent again. but it wasn't empty. I could feel it. Minutes dragged, each one a lifetime. My heart pounding so loud, I thought it would give me away. My eyes stayed glued to the door, expecting it to burst open, expecting him to come back. The moonlight shifted shadows crawling across the walls, and every flicker made me flinch. I thought of my family, of Mom, waiting for me to come home, of Rick's stubborn refusal to believe this house could hold anything sinister. I thought of the summers, the laughter, the safety of those crowded days, and how far away they felt now. The house wasn't my haven anymore. It was a trap, and I was its prey. Finally, red and blue lights flashed through the windows, painting the room in eerie pulses. Relief flooded me, but it was fragile, laced with dread. I crept to the window, peering out. 2 police cars sat in the driveway, their lights cutting through the dark. I ran downstairs, my footsteps echoing, and threw open the front door, nearly collapsing as the officers stepped inside. They didn't hesitate, moving through the house with flashlights and drawn guns, their voices sharp and low. I waited outside the night air, biting my skin, my breath visible in the cold. The ocean's roar was louder now, a restless growl that matched my nerves. They were back in minutes. Too soon, their faces grim. The house was empty, they said. No one was there. I stared, disbelieving. I heard him go upstairs. There's no way out. My voice shook as I argued, but they shrugged, saying I must have been too panicked to notice him slip away. I knew that wasn't true. The 3rd floor had one staircase, one path down, and I'd been watching it. He couldn't have passed me. But what could I say? They were calm, professional, already turning to leave. I felt like I was losing my mind, the truth slipping through my fingers like sand. I wasn't ready to let them go. Not yet. The police were wrong, and I knew it. The house wasn't empty, and the truth was hiding somewhere in its shadows. I stood outside, the night air sharp against my skin, refusing to let them walk away. I needed to be believed to know I wasn't crazy. My hands shook as I called Rick, my voice cracking as I explained what happened. He didn't hesitate, his tone cutting through the phone, sharp and furious. He told the police to search again, that my life might depend on it. I clung to his voice, to the memory of him catching me when I fell off the deck as a kid, his strong hands steadying me. That memory gave me the strength to follow the officers back inside my heart, pounding with every step. This time, they were thorough. They moved methodically, opening every closet, checking under beds, their flashlights sweeping across the house's dark corners. They tapped walls as if expecting a hidden passage, and pulled back shower curtains with a flick of their wrists. The air was thick with dust and tension, the shadows shifting with every beam of light. I trailed them, my breath shallow, watching their every move. He's here. He's not. He's gone. He's watching. He's waiting. We climbed to the 3rd floor, my usual bedroom, the one I'd avoided by sheer luck. One officer paused his hand on the window. He pushed, and it slid open without resistance. Unlocked. My stomach dropped. That was the room I would have slept in. One officer stayed by the door, while the other headed downstairs to the back deck. I followed, needing to be outside, away from the house's suffocating weight. The night was colder now, the ocean's roar a low growl in the distance. The officer swept his flashlight across the yard. Nothing. No footprints, no broken branches. Then he tilted the beam upward toward the roof. Look up. See the truth. Don't turn away. There he was. A man bald, his clothes tattered, his skin grimy, sitting on the roof like a gargoyle perched on a cathedral. His eyes caught the light, vacant and unblinking, staring straight through me. My knees buckled, a scream catching in my throat. The next hour was a blur. Officers shouting radios, crackling. The man being pulled down in handcuffs. He didn't resist, didn't speak, just stared with that eerie, empty gaze, like none of it mattered. The police said he was probably homeless, squatting in the house for days, maybe weeks. But when they asked how he got in, how long he'd been there, why he was hiding in the closet, he gave them nothing. Not a word. The night air was sharp, the roof tiles gleaming under moonlight, his stench lingering even from a distance. I stood frozen, watching as they loaded him into a police car, his silhouette a dark stain against the flashing lights. I couldn't stop thinking about the closet. Why there of all places? Had he heard me arrive, panicked, and ducked into the first hiding spot he could find? Or had he been there longer, waiting, watching for reasons I couldn't bear to imagine? He was there. He wasn't. He's gone. But what if he wasn't alone? Rick was furious, demanding answers. But the house gave none. The roof was inaccessible from the ground. No ladder, no trellis, making his presence even more impossible. My family begged Rick to install better security cameras, alarms, anything. But he refused, stubborn as ever, for reasons I'll never understand. He said the house was fine, that it was just one bad night. But I saw his eyes, the way they lingered on the roof, and I knew he wasn't so sure. That night changed me. The thought that I'd chosen the master bedroom, not my usual 3rd floor room, haunts me. Had I slept up there by that unlocked window where he'd fled, I might not be here. The house still stands, its weathered walls hiding secrets I'll never know. I see it in my dreams, its dark windows staring its silence, waiting. I'll never go back. Some shadows don't leave you, no matter how bright the day. The Jersey shore stretched before me, its waves whispering secrets. But it was Mike's beach house that felt like a tomb waiting to be opened. My best friend, Mike, had invited me to his family's place for a weekend in mid-July, a chance to escape the monotony of my life. I was in my mid-20s, stuck in a dead-end job, living in a cramped apartment that smelled of stale coffee and regret. Mike's call was a spark in the dark, his voice bright, casual, promising a few days of sun, sand, and no worries. I didn't need convincing. A beach house, especially one as grand as his, was a luxury I couldn't afford on my own. I packed a duffel bag, tossed it into his trunk, and we hit the road from our hometown, the city fading behind us as the horizon opened wide. Mike's beach house wasn't just a house. It was a monument, a sprawling, weathered beauty on the Jersey shore that had stood for generations. His family had owned it since his great-grandparents' time, a place where summers were etched into the walls with laughter, sunburns, and the clink of glasses. But when his grandparents passed away a year ago, the house fell silent. Mike's parents, tied up with work on the West Coast, rarely visited, and his extended family was scattered across the country. The place stood dormant, its windows dark, its rooms gathering dust. Mike's dad talked about renting it out, but finding tenants for a beach house in the off-season was a pipe dream. For Mike, though, it was a free pass to paradise whenever he wanted. And this weekend, he wanted me along. We arrived around 6 in the evening, the sky a deep gold, the air thick with salt and warmth. The house loomed ahead, its cedar shingles faded by decades of sea air, its wraparound porch sagging slightly, like an old man resting his weight. Inside, it smelled of history, salt air, old wood, a faint mustiness that wasn't unpleasant, just heavy with memory. The living room was frozen in time. Floral couches, a stone fireplace, photos of Mike's grandparents smiling on the beach. We dropped our bags in the upstairs bedrooms, mine a cozy room with a view of the dunes. Mike's across the hall with a creaky 4-poster bed. Everything felt right, like the house was welcoming us, even if its heart had stopped beating. After grabbing subs from a shop down the road, we headed to the beach, the sand cool under our feet. Mike brought fishing rods, more for the ritual than the catch. The waves rolled in steady and hypnotic, their foam glowing under the fading light. We cast our lines, talked about nothing, work girls the usual, and let the night wrap around us. At one point, we spotted two girls walking barefoot along the shoreline, their laughter carrying over the water. Mike, always the charmer, called out, and soon we were chatting the conversation. Light, flirtatious, the kind that happens when you're young, and the beach feels like it belongs to you. They were locals, or close enough, and we swapped numbers before they wandered off, their silhouettes fading into the dusk. The beach was alive with summer crowds, but Mike knew the hidden spots, private paths through the dunes, stretches of sand tucked between houses where the lights didn't reach. We found one, a quiet pocket, where the only sounds were the waves and the wind rustling the grass. It was perfect, the kind of night that made you forget the world's weight. I leaned back on the sand, staring at the stars, feeling like I could breathe for the first time in months. The house, the beach, the freedom. It was everything I needed. But as we walked back, the house's dark windows caught my eye, and a chill settled in my bones, uninvited. I shook it off, blaming the night air, but something felt off, like the house was watching us waiting. The next morning, we woke around 9. The sun already warm through the windows. A breeze rolled off the ocean, carrying the promise of a good day. Mike suggested a run along the boardwalk, and I agreed, lacing up my sneakers. We jogged a couple of miles, the boards thudding under our feet, the air sharp with salt and sunscreen. Families crowded the walk, kids chasing seagulls, vendors hawking fried dough. It felt good to move, to sweat, to feel alive after a night of lounging. Mike was in his element, grinning, pushing me to keep pace. We stopped for water, leaning against the railing, watching the waves crash. The day stretched ahead, lazy and open, and we let it slip by, without a plan swimming, napping on the porch, eating leftover subs in the kitchen. By evening, we were spent. Mike floated the idea of hitting bars in Seaside, but the thought of lines and loud music felt like work. Our bodies ached from the sun and salt, our minds heavy with the kind of tired that feels earned. We crashed early, me in my room, Mike in his, the house settling around us like a blanket. I fell asleep fast, the ocean's rhythm lulling me under the bed, soft and forgiving. Then, sometime after midnight, a sharp, piercing sound tore me awake. My eyes snapped open, heart racing, the noise cutting through the dark like a blade. At first, I thought it was a dream, a remnant of some half-forgotten nightmare. But it was real, a high-pitched, relentless alarm stabbing into my skull. I threw off the covers, feet hitting the cold floor, and stood disoriented, trying to pinpoint the source. It wasn't in my room, not on the second floor. The sound seemed to come from above, sharp and insistent, like a warning. My pulse hammered, a mix of confusion and dread. Was it a smoke detector? A security alarm? I yanked open my bedroom door, the hallway, dark, and sprinted to Mike's room. I grabbed his shoulders, shaking him awake, my voice urgent. "Get up. Follow me." He blinked groggy, but the alarm's wail snapped him alert. He stumbled out of bed, shirtless, and we bolted up the stairs to the third floor, the sound growing louder, more oppressive with every step. The third floor was a maze of shadows, lit only by a sliver of moonlight spilling through a window at the end of the hall. We flipped on the lights, the bulbs flickering before steadying, casting a harsh glow over the dusty rooms. We expected smoke, flames, something to explain the noise. But there was nothing. No heat, no haze, no flicker of fire. Just the alarm screaming, relentless. We split up, checking bedrooms, bathrooms, closets, our footsteps heavy on the creaky floorboards. My heart pounded the air, thick with dust, and something else. Something wrong. The house felt alive. Its silence broken by that piercing sound, like it was trying to tell us something after what felt like forever. I pushed open a bedroom door, the one at the far end of the hall. The noise was loudest here, a physical force pressing against my eardrums. I scanned the room, a twin bed, a dresser, a faded rug, until my eyes landed on the pillow. Something was wrong with it, the way it sat too perfect, like it was hiding something. I lifted it, and there it was, a small black device the size of a walkie-talkie, its surface smooth, unmarked, save for a single red light blinking like a heartbeat. A switch, or what looked like one, protruded from the side. My hands shook as I picked it up, the device cold, heavier than it should have been. I flipped the switch, and the noise stopped, the silence rushing back like a wave. Mike stepped into the room, his eyes locking on the device in my hand. We didn't speak, just stared the air between us, heavy with questions neither of us could answer. What was it? Why was it here? I turned it over, searching for a label, a button, anything but. There was nothing. Just that blinking red light, steady, unyielding. Mike's face was pale, his voice low. Have you seen this before? I shook my head, my throat tight. No. You... He shook his head too, his eyes wide, reflecting my own fear. We stood there frozen, the device a cold weight in my hand, its purpose a mystery that felt like a threat. We sat in Mike's room, the device on the bed between us, trying to make sense of it. Mike swore no one in his family had been here in months, maybe years. The house was empty, locked up tight. I believed him. Why would he lie? But if it wasn't his family who put it here, was it a security device, some kind of backup alarm? But there was no fire, no break-in, nothing to justify it. And the way it was hidden, tucked so neatly under a pillow, felt deliberate, like someone wanted it found, but only by the right person. My mind raced, grasping for answers. Maybe it was a prank, a leftover from some forgotten guest. But the house felt too still, too aware for that to be true. Then it hit me. A thought so cold, it stopped my breath. The switch. I hadn't checked how it worked. I grabbed the device, my fingers trembling, and flipped the switch on, then off. The alarm screamed, then died just as before. Mike's eyes widened, his voice barely audible. Oh my God. We both knew it. At the same moment, the switch had to be flipped by hand. Someone had been here in the house tonight to turn it on. Someone who wasn't us. The realization was a blade cutting through the last of our denial. We weren't alone. Mike grabbed his phone, dialing 911, his voice shaking as he explained. I moved to the door, locking it, then dragged a chair to brace it, my hands clumsy with panic. We waited, crouched in the dark, the device between us like a bomb. Every shadow seemed to move, every creak of the house a footstep. My mind looped frantic. Who was here? Where were they? Are they still here? The wait was endless. Each second stretching into a lifetime, my heart pounding so loud I thought it would betray us. Finally, flashing lights lit up the windows, red and blue cutting through the night. We ran downstairs, meeting the police at the door, our words tumbling out in a rush. Device alarm, someone in the house. The officers moved through the house, their flashlights sweeping their radios, crackling. We waited outside, the night air cold against my skin, the ocean's roar a distant growl. I kept glancing at the house, its dark windows like eyes watching us. The police were gone too long, or not long enough, and when they returned, their faces were grim. They found no one, no prints, no weapons. But the third floor, it was a wreck. Every window wide open, even the tiny bathroom ones. Beds flipped, mattresses torn off frames. Drawers pulled out, their contents spilled across the floor. The room where I'd found the device, so neat when we searched, was now chaos, like a storm had torn through it. I felt my mind unravel the reality, too much to hold. Mike's face mirrored mine, pale, disbelieving. The officers led us upstairs, and we saw it for ourselves. Clothes scattered, lamps toppled the pillow I'd lifted now on the floor, as if someone had come back furious. How we'd been right here. The police had no answers. They told us to lock the windows, secure the house call, if anything else happened. Then they left their cars, fading into the night, leaving us with a house that felt like a trap. We didn't want to stay, not after someone unhinged, dangerous, had been here messing with us in ways we couldn't understand. But we had no choice. We locked every door, every window, and slept in Mike's room, taking turns keeping watch. Nothing else happened that night. Thank God. We left at dawn, the house silent behind us, its secrets locked inside. But I can't shake it. Who put that device there? Why was it a warning, a game, or something worse? Mike swears he doesn't know, and I believe him, but the house knows. It's still there, waiting, and for all we know, whoever was in it that night never left. 3 years ago, I stood on a private beach, stars above me, laughter around me, never imagining the night would end with my friends bound in a stranger's car, their screams echoing in my mind. I was 22, fresh out of college, living in my childhood home with my parents, a life of comfort I never took for granted. My room, with its faded posters and creaky bed, was a sanctuary. My job, new and promising, paid well, and with no rent to worry about, I was saving money faster than I could spend it. Mornings started with coffee, strong and black, to feed my caffeine addiction. Days were work gym, a few pages of a novel, then scrolling my phone until sleep took me. Weekends were for hiking trails near my hometown, short road trips to quiet towns, or board games with my parents. Their laughter, a constant in my life. I wasn't a party girl, never had been. My father raised me to value myself, to steer clear of hookup culture, to keep my life simple, deliberate. He was the most important man in my world, and I carried that with me, a shield against the chaos my peers chase. But when Lindsay, my closest friend from college, called with an invitation, I couldn't say no. She wanted me, Sabrina and Thea, to spend a weekend at her family's beach house, a place she described as a dream, tucked away from the tourist crowds, sitting on its own private stretch of sand. Lindsay's family was wealthy. Her parents, both neurosurgeons, and I knew their beach house would be something else. I packed a bag, excitement buzzing in my chest, and drove to meet the girls. The house was beyond anything I'd imagined. It wasn't just modern. It was a fortress, all sleek glass and sharp angles, like something out of a spy movie. Its walls gleamed under the midday sun, its private beach, a perfect crescent of white sand, the ocean's waves, a gentle hum in the distance. I stood in the driveway, awestruck, my sneakers sinking into the gravel, the air thick with salt and promise. We unloaded our bags, laughing, as we explored the house. It had enough bedrooms for each of us to have our own. But where's the fun in that? We chose a kid's room on the second floor with 2 sets of bunk beds and a bathroom attached, the kind of place that felt like a sleepover from childhood. The walls were painted a soft blue seashell decals peeling at the edges, and the bunk beds creaked with every movement, reminding me of summers at camp. Lindsay led the tour, pointing out the high-tech kitchen, the glass-walled living room, the deck overlooking the beach. Sabrina and Thea were already planning our days, swimming, tanning, maybe a boardwalk trip. I felt a warmth settle in my chest, a rare break from my routine, a chance to let loose with my closest friends. We'd planned 3 nights, the perfect length for a group trip. I'm not the most patient person. Messy or rude people set me off, so I knew 3 days would be just right. My life was quiet, controlled, but this weekend I was ready to loosen up, to drink a little more than usual, to laugh louder than I had in months. The house felt like a bubble, a safe haven from the world, its glass walls reflecting the ocean's sparkle, its rooms promising memories we'd carry for years. But as we settled in, dropping our bags and claiming bunks, I felt a flicker of unease, a shadow passing over the sun. I brushed it off, blaming the long drive, but the house seemed to watch us, its silence heavier than it should have been. The first night, we kept things low-key, walking down to the private beach as the sun set, the sky a blaze of orange and pink. We spread a blanket on the sand, sipping White Claws, the cans cold against our palms. Sabrina's speaker played house music, the bass a soft pulse under the stars. We lay back, gazing at the sky, the Milky Way, a faint ribbon above us. The air was warm, carrying the scent of salt and seaweed, the waves a steady rhythm that lulled us into a quiet joy. Lindsay told stories about her family's summers. Hear her dad grilling fish on the deck, her mom reading novels in a hammock. Thea, always the dreamer, pointed out constellations, her voice soft with wonder. Sabrina laughed, teasing her for being such a romantic. I felt content, the alcohol loosening my edges, the night wrapping us in its embrace. Then in the distance, a light flickered, faint and unsteady, like a firefly lost on the shore. We fell silent, watching it move, swinging back and forth, hypnotic, yet unsettling. Pause. It was a flashlight, carried by someone walking toward us. Their steps slow, deliberate. 3 or 4 figures emerged from the dark, their laughter carrying over the waves, light and carefree. We relaxed the tension, easing from our shoulders. They were probably just teenagers or people our age out for a late-night stroll. One of them called out a friendly, "Hi," in a guy's voice, young, maybe a year or 2 older than us. Thea called back, her tone bright, inviting, and soon they were close enough to see 3 guys, all with that classic beach boy look, tanned skin, messy hair, easy smiles. They joined us sitting on the sand, their beer cans glinting in the moonlight. The 7 of us talked, laughed, drank the conversation, flowing like the tide. They weren't pushy, just charming enough to keep things fun. Thea was in her element, her laughter louder than usual, her eyes sparkling. She's gorgeous, the kind of person who draws people in without trying, and I could tell the guys were into her. Sabrina and Lindsay were having fun too, but I felt a growing weight, a tiredness that wasn't just from the day. I didn't trust strangers the way my friends did not after years of keeping my world small safe. But the night was warm, the stars bright, and I pushed the unease down, letting the alcohol blur it. An hour later, a few drinks deep, the guys invited us to their place, a house down the beach. My friends were eager, especially Thea, her smile wide as she looked at them. I was exhausted, my body heavy, my mind foggy. I didn't want to spoil their fun, but I wasn't going with them. I told them to go, said I'd head back to sleep. There were only 3 guys, after all, and I had no interest in anything more than my bunk bed. They hesitated, but I waved them off, insisting I'd be fine. I watched them walk away, 6 figures, fading into the dark, their laughter swallowed by the waves. I turned back to the house, the sand cold under my feet, the glass walls gleaming like a beacon. I washed up the bathroom's bright lights, harsh against my tired eyes, and climbed into the top bunk. Sleep came fast, the ocean's rhythm pulling me under. Sometime after 3 in the morning, my phone lit up, buzzing with a FaceTime call from Lindsay. I fumbled for it, groggy, confused. She should have been back by now, or asleep somewhere else. I answered my voice, thick with sleep, and her face filled the screen. Pale eyes, wide with panic. Her words hit like ice water. Thea and Sabrina. They've been kidnapped. Get my car. Now. My heart stopped, adrenaline flooding my veins, burning away the fog. I didn't think, didn't question. I threw on clothes, my hands shaking so badly I could barely zip my hoodie. I sprinted downstairs, the house dark, and silent, its glass walls reflecting my own terrified face. "Why didn't you call the police?" I asked, my voice trembling as I grabbed Lindsay's keys from the kitchen counter. She said she had, but I needed to move to help. "Stay on the line," she said, her voice a lifeline through the panic. She guided me open the driveway gate. "Find the car, go left, 10 houses down." I fumbled with the gate, the metal cold and heavy, and slid into the driver's seat, the engine roaring to life. Lindsay's voice was steady, urgent, telling me the car's description, a dark SUV heading north. I slammed the gas, the tires screeching as I sped onto the empty road, the night a blur outside the windows. My hands gripped the wheel knuckles, white, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I was driving too fast, reckless, but there was no one else on the road, no one to stop me. Minutes later, I saw it, a dark SUV moving slowly, its taillights glowing, like eyes in the dark. I hung up with Lindsay, called the police, my voice shaking as I gave them our location. The dispatcher told me to keep my distance, to not alert them. I eased off the gas, my hands trembling, the SUV a shadow ahead. Time stretched, each second a lifetime, my mind racing with images of Thea and Sabrina, hurt, scared, gone. Then, flashing lights appeared, red and blue, cutting through the night. The SUV didn't swerve, didn't speed up, as if they thought the police were there for someone else. I pulled over, my breath ragged, and watched it unfold. Chaos, pure and raw. Officers swarmed the SUV, guns drawn, voices sharp. They yanked the 3 guys out, slamming them against the car cuffs, clicking around their wrists. One officer moved to the trunk, his flashlight sweeping, and opened it. There they were, Sabrina and Thea, bound with rope, their faces bruised, eyes wide with fear. My stomach churned, bile rising in my throat. They were alive, but the sight of them, broken and terrified, burned into me. The police pulled them out, gentle but urgent, and led them to an ambulance waiting nearby. I stood frozen, the night air cold against my skin, the ocean's roar a distant growl. The guys were shoved into cruisers, their faces blank, unreadable, as if they felt nothing. Lindsay met us at the scene, her face streaked with tears. She told me what happened, her voice shaking but clear. After I'd gone to bed, they'd kept drinking the night, blurring into laughter and music. Thea and Sabrina paired off, with 2 of the guys heading to their rooms. Lindsay stayed with the 3rd, but she wasn't feeling it. She told him she had to get back to her house to keep an eye on things. He got angry, his voice sharp, his eyes cold. They argued, and he told her to get out, to never come back. She left, shaken, but realized halfway home she'd forgotten her purse. She went back, slipping into the house quietly, and that's when she saw it. The guys dragging Thea and Sabrina, limp and unresisting, to the SUV, throwing them into the trunk like luggage. She ran, called the police, then me, her voice breaking as she begged for help. The house wasn't even theirs. It belonged to an elderly couple away on vacation, oblivious to the monsters in their home. Thea's parents, both lawyers, moved fast, keeping the story out of the news, ensuring the guys faced the harshest sentences possible. They were charged with kidnapping, assault, and a string of other crimes, locked away for years. But no sentence could undo what they'd done. The trauma clung to us, a shadow that wouldn't lift. For years, I couldn't face beaches, late nights, or strangers, no matter how kind they seemed. I pulled away from the girls, my world shrinking, my trust shattered. We're close again now, but it took time, and I know Thea and Sabrina carry scars deeper than mine. Part of me thinks forgetting is their only mercy. The worst part, the part that keeps me awake, is how close it was. If I hadn't gone back to the house, if I hadn't been there to take Lindsay's call to drive her car, the police might not have found them in time. That thought is a knife twisting in my gut, a reminder of how fragile safety is, how quickly a night under the stars can turn into a nightmare.